Ready, set. Okay, we are on. Give me a second. Okay, we are live. Hi, everybody. This is Leo. Welcome to Live with Leo at 5. And I have a great guest here with me today. Hi, Ellen. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Nice to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and taking the time. Um, just a quick introduction here. Um, uh, let me let me just introduce our guest real quick, and I'd love to kind of get her take on her journey and history up to this point and all the great things that she's done. Ellen is a uh, the Books Business Abundance podcast host, and she's the CEO of Create a Splash Marketing and Grammy-nominated songwriter. She's also has had multiple #1 best-selling authors with 9 books to her name and an award-winning book and business coach. So she helps busy creative visionaries, thought leaders, and change makers write, publish, launch #1 bestsellers, and to market their books, to get more clients, to make more money, which is all we want to do, make bigger impact in the world, and leave a lasting legacy. So please help me welcome Ellen Violette. Hi.
Hi.
So you have a very interesting bio, and it's one of the reasons I want to talk to you and share with you, with everybody, regarding what you do and also how you became this person that you are. Um, Now I know that you currently reside in San Diego,
I
and
do.
have you always lived in California in San Diego? What was your background?
Yeah, I've always lived in California. I'm from Los Angeles, and we've lived down here twice now. This is our second time, my husband and I. We moved down here in the late 90s, and we moved here because my parents had passed away and I lost the house that I grew up in. I had to sell it. I didn't lose it. I had to sell it. But anyway, and I just wanted to get away. And we had always spent summers down here. My parents were horse racing people. My brother was a jockey agent for many years. And so we did that. And it was right into as the real estate market was heating up. And so I could no longer be in the music business because I had to start making money. And so we started buying, fixing, and selling houses down here, and we made a lot of money really fast. And then the market got too hot; there was nothing to buy, and so we went back to LA and took a property management job. And while we were there, was when I discovered that there was this thing called ebooks, and I was like, I remember running through the house going, "Oh my God, this is amazing! You mean you can get directly to the people without having to go through gatekeepers?" Because in the music business, I literally had an A&R person once say to me, "Our job is to say no, and your job is to tell us why we should say yes." And there was always a reason why they would say no. And so anyway, we were there, and we ended up buying a condo there. We made a lot of money on that one because now the market was taking off there. And then we had quite a nest egg, and we wanted to invest it and have it support us. And we got connected to a big name guru who shall remain nameless. And they promised us that they could help us take that money and turn it into passive income where we wouldn't have to work anymore. And instead, they pressured us into buying a house right into the 2008 recession, and we lost everything.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was that. And in the meantime, I was growing my online business. And then through a series of circumstances, we ended up living in a house. It was actually an apartment, and there were 6 apartments underneath this house. It was a mansion up in the hills in Woodland Hills, California, just a suburb of LA. And all of a sudden, the neighbors got mad that all these people were living there and it wasn't up to code. It wasn't it wasn't zoned for that. And everybody got kicked out. And at that point, I had been really sick. My husband had gone through a major surgery. My business wasn't doing that great at that point, and it had kind of stalled out. And there were a lot of reasons why, which we may or may not get into today. But anyway, through all that, we ended up in San Diego again. So now we've been here for 7 years.
Wow. So it sounds like all of that was in Southern California, at least.
All of it in Southern California. Yeah. And I went away to school. I went to UC Berkeley, but it was still in California.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
a California girl.
Well, those are all the main spots, right? And
Right. I like the weather.
yeah, for sure. I think everybody comes for the weather, but then
Yeah.
they have to know that they have to have high, expenses and high taxes.
Well, when you grow up here, it's hard to go anywhere else. I mean, as far as weather, you can't beat it.
Yeah, I
It's
know
really the
for sure.
best.
I tried when I was in my 20s. When I was in my 20s, I said, I don't know anything else anywhere else. I should go and explore and see where else I might want to live. And I went to all different states all over the country. I fell in love with Chicago, but then my friend said to me at the time, said, hey, if you like it here, and that was during the summer, she said, if you like it here, come back during the winter. So I did, and I was like, no, I can't survive here.
Right.
And why would I want to do that when I got this here?
So where are you? Are you in Irvine?
I am in Irvine, yes.
Yeah,
correct.
Irvine, yeah.
And so my family are all here in Orange County, and I thought, well, that's kind of weird. I would want to live somewhere else because all my family's here. Usually it's the other way around. People have family elsewhere.
Right. And then they want to go be with them. Yeah.
And they have to go visit them every year. And I always hear them talk about it. Oh, what are you doing? This holiday or whatever. Oh, I got to go back. I got to at least go back every other year. I got to go back every year. It always seemed like such a drag. And so like, why would I want to do that? Like go live somewhere else and having to do this visit thing when everything's already here.
Right.
So I kind of like botched that idea and never left since.
Yeah.
So, but you were.
We shouldn't tell people this because then they're going to want to come here, and we don't need more people.
Well, I think they already know.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah. Which is why it's so expensive here, and people we have it's pretty a lot of people live here. It's crowded. So
but that's one of the things I love about San Diego is it's not as crowded as LA.
Absolutely. And Orange County too is not as crowded as LA. Nothing's as crowded as LA.
No.
Necessarily. And so you know that because you lived in San Diego and then you lived in LA. Did you live in Orange County at all?
No.
No. Okay.
No, I grew up in Beverlywood, just south of Beverly Hills. Literally, like the sign is there that says Beverly Hills, and on one side is Beverly Hills, and on the other side is Beverlywood.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you mentioned all this stuff about real estate. You have quite a real estate background between
Yeah,
and
I do.
As you know, I'm a real estate agent, so that's always of interest to me.
Yeah, we love buying, fixing, and selling houses. It's really fun. It's very creative. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is I always meet interesting people who want to buy and sell and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, well, that's what I love about being a podcast host. Same thing.
Yeah, and same thing with me. I started doing this recently and thought, hey, you know what? Like, since I can't connect with people face to face, then let's jump on and do this. And so I'm happy that you've been running your podcast. How long have you been doing that?
I started in 2018.
Okay.
And I did it from October to December, thinking I was going to start up again after the holidays. And somebody got me into the One Funnel Away challenge with Russell Brunson, and I was totally focused on that. And what it was going to be like 2 weeks off turned into 6 months. And I didn't start it up again until June. And I've been doing it pretty much ever since June of 2019.
And yours is a once a week show?
Well, it's been a once a week show up till now. I don't know. It may go to twice a week. We'll see.
Okay.
I don't know. But I'm still, let's see. I've done like 46, 47 interviews so far. And then I've done 10 trainings. Wow. And I'm just thinking I want to do more trainings, and I'm just trying to figure out how I want to do it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but they're short. My trainings are short and to the point, but they're they're deep because I know a lot. I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, and as an entrepreneur, that's what everybody needs. Everybody's
Yeah.
short on time, but really need to make an impact and get something
Yeah.
done quickly. So I think that's what everybody is shooting for, is
Mhm.
shorten things up, get to the point and getting done. So speaking of getting to the point, then your main expertise right now is authoring books in general, right? So I don't know as detailed about it, so I would love for you to kind of
Mhm.
broaden that and let us know what your
Mhm.
main expertise
Well,
is.
I want to say, and actually, I just wrote an article on this today in my newsletter, and it's about using a book as a lead magnet versus using a book to sell books. So when I first got online, I just wanted to write books. And it's so funny. I recently asked my following, like, why they wanted to write a book. And the reason I asked that was because I didn't really have a reason. It was just something I wanted to do. It was just one of those things on, I guess, on my bucket list, you know. So, so that was what propelled me once the real estate market got too hot and there was nothing to buy. And I found ebooks and I thought, well, this is great. And I thought, I'm going to write books and I'm going to sell books because I've always been a writer. And I started doing poetry and journals really, I was very young. I mean, 11 or 12. And it's just always been something that I was pretty good at, communicating and writing. And so my degree was in sociology. My minor was in English. I was a copy editor and layout person for trade magazines for a while. I was a publicist for a famous comedy house. I mean, just done a lot of things, trying to find myself earlier on. And, I was really excited about that, except then what happened was that I started learning internet marketing because the skill that I had, was like I had to make money. And the skill that I had was being able to write. And I thought, okay, well, I can write copy. I can write brochures. I could write press releases. I took a course on publicity. And as I said, I'd already been in publicity. And then I thought, okay, well, I just was getting deeper and deeper into it. It was interesting to me. And I took this course that was called Teleseminar Secrets with Alex Mandossian. And that was the course at that time. There were no webinars, there was no video, there were no blogs, there was no WordPress. And teleseminars was the big deal. And I took that course. And one of the things that Alex said was the money is not in writing the books, the money is in teaching what's in the books. And I was like, oh dear, oh my God, that wasn't the plan. But then I thought, okay, well, I better figure this out. What am I going to do? And the first book that I wrote was actually about moving because we've been buying, fixing, and selling houses. And even though I knew I wanted to write a book, I didn't know what to write about. And that was what I knew. I mean, I could have also written about the music business, but I didn't. And so I wrote this book. And my original plan was actually to sell it to realtors to then give to their clients. And when I looked into it, somehow Alex Mandossian got in my brain. I started going in another direction. I never did that. But as I was writing that first book, it was like, it got to the point where, I mean, it was so hard and it was so boring and it was taking so long. And I was like, oh my God, I mean, I don't want to finish this book. But at that point, I had looked around for a book coach, actually someone who understood ebooks, because I loved the idea of ebooks over books at that time because we didn't have, publishing on demand. So you had to buy a bunch of books. And for most people, they ended up in their garage. And I have plenty of those too. And because the first one I did actually was just a single page in a collaboration book called Wake Up, Live the Life of Freedom. But that first book, I just I was beside myself, and since I couldn't find a coach, I ended up hiring just a regular coach. But in the meantime, the big conference in those days was the big seminar with Armin Morin. And I thought, oh, I'm sure I'll find a coach there, but I didn't. And I was like, oh my God, if there's no coaches, I bet I could do this. I could teach this better. There's got to be a better way than this. There was like one book and one e-course that was expensive. And I knew I still wasn't going to get the guidance I needed. It just wasn't enough for me. So then I went on a quest to create a better process. And so that's what I did. And then I knew I had to finish that first book, because if I was going to be the ebook coach, I had to finish the book. So I finished the book and wrote my first book. And well, actually what I did was the first one, I ended up doing a collaboration with my coach, actually, who taught me how to coach. I actually studied with someone to learn how to coach. And he gave me my first couple of clients. And I said, I really would like to make some improvements to this book that you did. And he said, no, don't worry about it. You can just take it and do what you want. So I kind of made my own book out of it. And then I created my first workshop, and my first workshop ended up having 2 people in it. And I was like so disappointed. But what had happened was that I had taken that first ebook, and I then gave a 2-part free teleseminar that I invited people to so that they could get to know me. And at that time, people were like hungry for information. It wasn't like now where people are like, oh God, more information, you know? And so what happened was that there was a giveaway, and giveaways weren't like they are now either. I mean, it was huge. There were like 77 people in it. And I mean, just amazing stuff. And I built my list, which was only about 200 people from networking offline, to 1,600 people. And I was like in business overnight. And I learned from that first course, like all the pieces that I had done right and what I had done wrong that I needed to improve. And then I just kept giving that workshop and continuing to improve it, as people told me it needed other things. And it just kept getting more valuable, more expensive. And until I reached a certain point where I felt like this is where I want to leave it. And I created this workshop, and it's really great. I've given it like 30 times. And I teach people to write and now a book and an ebook really are the same. In those days, people saw them as different, but now we have, when I work with clients, we just publish them on Amazon and they get both. So, but that was what happened. And so I did that, like, as I said, 30 times over 11 years. So 2 to 3 times a year. But then in 2013, while I was working with people, I started going into Amazon and looking at what other books were there. And also we'd been selling books from the website, and we were getting like, $27, $37, $47 a book. I mean, I did one with Jim Edwards where we made $12,000 with like a couple emails, but with Kindle, everything changed. But then I wasn't getting the ranking because I was still doing it from my website. So I thought, okay, well, I better, figure this out. So I started going in there with people, with my clients, just to do some research. And I was just immediately struck by how Amazon worked. And it just made sense to me. It's like I just knew what to do. And so I launched my first book on there, and it became a #1 bestseller. I started doing it for other clients. Actually, I think I did it for another client first. And then I was like, well, I better do it for me. And so it just took off from there. And so then I got really well known for doing #1 bestseller launches. So all my clients are #1 bestsellers. And I mean, our best one was in 6 categories. But we've always gotten to #1. And so that's what happened. So I've done both of those. And, part of the thing too is when you do that, I mean, you've got to market. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you have to market. I mean, learning how to do JVs, learning how to do affiliate marketing. I've done summits. I've done, I've never done a giveaway, I don't think. That I'm thinking about that one, but like a big giveaway or something like that. But you just have to keep learning. You have to keep growing. Things do change, but they also stay the same. Because what I did to sell that course that I called a 2-part teleseminar, today they call a masterclass. And, and I had a free ebook that went to a masterclass, that went to a workshop, that went to a second workshop, a marketing workshop. And that second workshop, I sold quite a few people into. I don't remember how many, but that one made me $13,000. Like right away. And I made almost 50 grand my first year, and a 6-figure income in 2.5 years. So it just, today they call that a funnel. So what I want to tell people is, like, the fundamentals don't change. It's like they get, different names or different software or different, slightly different ways of doing things and innovations, but human behavior doesn't change, and marketing principles don't change.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the background.
I'm so glad you mentioned that's so true in so many ways, not
Hmm.
just in this space, but in so many other spaces as well.
Yeah.
And so I think people really need to hear that because they always seem like they're chasing the next thing and the next thing, but they're not.
Right. And I did that too, because once social media came in and everything started changing, I was like, well, actually, what happened was that I started not being able to get as many people in, and it was noisier in the marketplace and a lot of things happened. And then I felt like, well, what's wrong with me? And at the time, I didn't know what was wrong, but really what was wrong was that I didn't focus enough on list building, number one. That was a big problem. And the other thing was just that you go through stages in a business, and nobody told me this at the time. Like, I actually learned what happened to me just this year in a course that I'm in. And I didn't know that was normal. And what the normal was it was Jeff Walker, and he was talking about how when you start building a list, you can grow it pretty fast, but then you will reach a point where it stalls out. And the reason it stalls out is because some people are getting on, but other people are getting off your list, right? And then what happens is your list gets old, or your list gets stale, or you don't have the next thing to offer people and they go somewhere else and you lose people, whatever. So all those things are normal, but I didn't know how to fix it. And so things got really hard and really frustrating. And so like everybody else, I just had to, I didn't have option B. There was no other option for me. So, I just kept going, and I kept doing what I could do. I would take on, editing jobs if that's what I needed to do, or copywriting or whatever, and then just continued to learn till I could start turning it around again. So
So
that's, yeah.
so you've learned that. So how do you fix that?
Well, you have to identify what the problem is. For me, like I said, one of the big problems was I wasn't list building. And so as my list got old, it wasn't being replenished.
Oh, I see.
So my buyers had bought what I had to offer, and I wasn't getting enough new people on.
I see.
So, but what I was doing over time was continuing to grow my credibility and expert status. And so I started getting referrals.
Mhm.
And I also raised my prices. So I was working all high end and doing it that way. But then it was like, well, I'm frustrated because I'm not reaching enough people. I'm working one-on-one.
Mhm.
I wasn't crazy about just having that model. So that was when I decided it was time for me to go back to school.
Mhm.
So I got into One Funnel Away Challenge with Russell Brunson. I am taking right now Jeff Walker's product launch formula class, because I've done, like I said, 30 launches just on that one. But you can always, get better. I want to get better. I want to do it better, and I want to do it the right way, so that I'm not like feeling like bummed out when I get to the end and it's like, yeah, I made money, but I didn't reach as many people as I wanted to reach. So you can always improve. But I think the main thing is really getting clarity about what it is that you want, number one. And number two, then figuring out who's that person that you need to learn from. And number three, being willing to invest in yourself. Because I think most people go through this, and I know I did. I spent a lot of money in the beginning years learning, and some of it was wasted. There's no doubt some of it was wasted, and some of it was just bad. Like I said, that one person who just ruined our lives by crashing our nest egg. But but the point is that you have to do your due diligence, and it's even more important today because there's just so many people out there that are doing things that they don't know all that much. So, it's great to say, well, I did this and now I can teach you, because somebody will, let's say, write a book, and then someone says, oh, how'd you do that? And then they go, oh, well, I'll teach you, but that person wrote one book. I've worked with people for 15 years, writing books and doing launches and teaching them how to write and everything. So you have to do your due diligence and go with the best people. And sometimes, and the best people are not cheap. You have to be willing to invest in yourself. You have to do what it takes to get the money to invest in yourself. And there were years in there where I didn't want to do it. I had spent so much money And I was stubborn, and I wasted some years in there because I was stubborn. I thought, well, I teach my clients, I can teach myself, but you can't teach yourself what you don't know. You know,
Yeah, for sure.
so that's a problem. But the thing with writing a book, because I don't want to get, we've gotten a little bit off the subject in a sense. But the thing is that there are two ways to use a book, as I started to say, and one is a lead magnet and one is a sell books. When I teach people how to write books, I'm teaching them how to use it as a lead magnet. And by the way, you're going to sell some books, right? As opposed to just selling books
Well,
for that reason.
I mean, you know, we might be going a little fast for people who have like never touched this world before, and you've covered so many things. But I just want to pick out is just to kind of simplify, but then also just kind of put it in a more basic terms of what we're trying to do here. So, so your main thing is what you're offering to people are if they ever had a thought of writing a book, right? And that it could supplement something in their business that they're doing, you know, whether it's coaching or some sort of business that they're doing that they feel like they could be an expert or maybe not even super expert at it, but by doing the book, they could get better. It's a stepping stone to something as well. And
I
then
think what happens is that when people write a book, it instantly gives them more credibility and expert status. So wherever they are in their business, if they're just starting out, I was just starting out. I mean, I had just learned a little bit, but I was still ahead of everyone else because nobody knew much in those days. But if you're, you know, wherever you are in your business, like a lot of times people will say, well, I don't know enough. I'm going to wait to write my book. But wherever you are, if you've helped one person or 5 people or 100 people, there was a way that you helped them, right? It was like you created some system or something that worked in some way.
we offered a value that they could
Right,
use,
you offered value,
that
exactly.
they could use.
And
So
so
once they
what I
could use
do when
that,
I work with people, it's like it's figuring out what that is. Like sometimes people will come to me and they're already a coach and they'll say, I don't know what to write about. And I'll say, well, do you work with people? And they'll go, yeah. And I go, well, how do you work with them? And they'll go, oh, I do this. And they start telling me their whole thing. I go, that's your book. It's not that they don't know, it's that they don't know that they know.
well,
Right?
I think it's more than that actually.
Yeah. What do you think it
And
is?
this is something that I learned recently for
Uh-huh.
myself and for everybody else as well.
Uh-huh.
When people say, I don't know, they're not necessarily saying it to you, they're saying it to themselves. But
Uh-huh.
then when they say it to themselves, it's because it's a habit. A habit
Uh,
of saying, I don't know, because it's easier to say, I don't know, than to say, hey, what are the things? Let me write them down. What are the different things I have? It's much easier to say, I don't know. And that's just human habits, you know? And so I think, you know, ultimately, not that they're bad people or anything like
no,
that,
no.
but at the end of the day, it's a bit of laziness.
Or they don't know how to get started.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another thing I hear a lot of with book writing is I don't know where to start.
But it's the same thing, right? You take stock of the
Yeah.
things that you could do, and then you can't say I don't know. I don't know is another word, you know, is another word for like
But
oh.
I don't think that's totally it because I know like I've worked a lot on my messaging. And sometimes I think you just need I mean, it's like you're too close to things. Like sometimes you need somebody that's outside of you that can just see more clearly than you can see.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
That's a different issue. I'm
Oh,
just
okay.
saying about like your own thing, your own self, you know, which is why we need somebody else to look,
Right.
you know,
Right.
a third person or something to look
Right.
like. But the reason they say I don't know is because that's what they've been saying to themselves,
Right.
which is why they need help.
But
Right.
I'm going to give you guys a tip that is the most important thing for anybody who wants to write a book. And that is that, well, partly what I was just saying is number one, get clear. Why are you writing this book? What is it you want it to do for you? That's number one. Number two, who is your market? Okay, who are you writing the book for? Anybody who says, oh, it's for everybody, you can't market to everybody. You don't have enough resources to do that. And it's also not the best way because then you're not a specialist. You're more of a generalist. So you want to figure out who your ideal market is. And then once you do that, you need to do marketing research. And I know that's a scary word for people. And what most people do is they write the book and then they start thinking about marketing. But here's the secret. And this is why all my clients are number one, is because when they come to me, that's the first thing we do. It doesn't matter where they are in the process. That's the first thing we do, is we go back to do that if they've already written the book, and we start there if they haven't written the book. And the reason is that when you go to publish your book, Amazon is the gorilla in the room. That's where a large majority of books are sold. There are lots of other ways to sell books. It doesn't mean you can only sell them there. I like to put my ebooks in there and give them an exclusive for at least the first 90 days so that we can use their promotional tools. But you get 7 keywords, you get 2 categories. You have to figure out how people are going to find your book. So you want to make sure that when you're writing the book, you know what category it fits into. And you're already thinking about, well, how am I going to, how do I sell this book? Because all books, when you're doing marketing, and this isn't just for marketing, this is for anything, they fall into pretty much wealth, health, and relationships. And so you need to understand that. And you also need to look at what else is out there. Because like I went in there one time with a client of mine, and he was a chiropractor, and he was into healing back pain naturally. And we went in there, and all of a sudden I see this other book, and it's on healing back pain naturally. And I go, this sounds just like your book. And he says, oh, no, my book's nothing like that. He's the go-to guy, and my book does this, that, and the other that his doesn't do. And I said, I don't get that from your title. I don't know that your book is different than his. And if he's the go-to guy, I'm going to get his. So you have to know what's out there to see how yours is different and how you're going to make the case to your ideal clients that they need your book. So, I mean, that can be intimidating to people. It's not hard to learn, but it's a process. It's a learnable process, but it's something that if you want to sell your book, you need to have that clarity. To me, writing the book is really the easy part. Because once you know what it is, writing a title, writing a subtitle, those can be difficult for some authors. There are some tools that you can use. There are, I actually have a free checklist people can get. It's at, where is it? booktitlesecrets.com.
Well, we can put it in. We can put them.
Yeah, but the thing is, once you have that, it's literally doing an outline. Make your outline and fill it in. And the reason that people get off track when they're writing a book, or they get lost, usually is they don't have an outline, or they started an outline and then they didn't follow it. So, once you've got the foundation, that's what you do is you just follow. If your outline doesn't make sense, your book isn't going to make sense, right? So just make sure that it's clear. So clarity is the most important thing. But that's really the best tip I can give anybody.
Well, I love what you said. You can't just write a book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just think about the biggest companies in the world. They always tell you 6 months, a year ahead of time,
Right.
what they're doing, right?
Right.
When they do that, that's all they're doing. They're already doing marketing. Maybe they don't even have the product yet. Same thing with Kickstarters, right? Hey, here's our idea. I don't have anything to show you or give you or nothing. Okay, you just have to give me some money.
Right.
You like the idea. Okay, then see, that's marketing ahead of time, right? And
right.
So,
but here's the I mean, the good news is if you've already done it, you can still go back and redo it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
They can change their complete mind.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know what? We found out this is way better.
Yeah.
Totally fine. But you have to do something.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's exactly what you're saying. So I love what you're saying about that. And people need to know that. And anything that they do, it's success ahead of time.
Yeah. It's always better to plan first.
Which is the part that people don't want to do. And so, because it's hard work, it's not easy, so naturally we don't want to do what's harder. We want to do the easier thing, which which makes sense when saying I don't know. It's easier to say I don't know than actually.
But I love this. I love this. One of my mentors said, life is a series of hard things with fun in between.
Sure.
And I love that because, and a corollary to that is it's actually, and you don't get to the fun if you don't do the hard things. Okay. So what may look like it's hard on the outside is actually the easier way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. It's easier for those who are willing to do the hard thing.
Yeah.
So with a little
and
bit
you
of,
may find out that the quote hard thing isn't that hard for you. Like I found out with me, the hard thing was the easy part
yeah, but that
for me.
requires trying, right? And what requires trying is harder than saying I don't know. Right? So it's a little bit
what
of
I
chicken
found
and
what I found is that everybody has different skills and everybody has different just different things they're good at. And one of the things that I love that I learned from Russell Brunson is the look for the who, not the how. So, I mean, if you, Russell Brunson is brilliant and he's got a multi-million-dollar company and he will tell you that he doesn't know how to run a Facebook ad, or he doesn't, I mean, there's a lot of things in his business he does not know how to do, but he knows how to hire people to do them, right? So if it's something you don't know how to do, then you need to find the person who knows how to do it and hire them and stick to what you're good at.
Sure.
And if you're not good, and if you think you're not good at writing, you're not good at writing a book, guess what? You can talk it. And all of you guys out there watching, you know how to talk.
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly think anybody can do anything they want, but we talk ourselves out of it all the time. So that's just a part of the human conditions. And if we're around, hopefully somebody really want to seek out, then there's people like you that can help them, right?
Yeah.
So we see these people all the time. And I think everybody has all the potentials that we all have.
But don't you agree that I think that just because you can do things doesn't mean you always should do everything?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Which is why you can't do everything anyways.
Right.
So just like to your point too. So, but this is picking and choosing and kind of honing down like what your gifts and what makes you happy. Whatever makes you happy, you're gonna probably most likely do very well at. If you do very well at, then that's the thing that you should do to give to the world. So there's a path from the inside out. So I love what you're saying. Absolutely, that's kind of the way it goes. And so for you though, what kind of people do you want to work with you? Like, is it just somebody who says, well, I don't know, I just want to write a book. I think it's a good thing. And I think books have this connotation of like, oh, maybe 50 years ago, or my father, my grandfather told me that if you read, you're a smart person, and that so it sticks to our mind. So we think that if we wrote a book, or something super great or something like that. And so they use that as a reason to wanting to write a book. But there's so many other reasons to write a book, to give value and things like that, like you were experiencing. And so what kind of people are you looking for that are interested in doing, getting help and getting published? And obviously you've found out what it takes to be successful in getting it online and being an ebook, and use that platform basically to further other things that you might be doing, whether it's seminar, coaching, or marketing.
I like working with people who want to make the world a better place. I like working with people who have memoirs with life lessons in them, to help other people, to motivate people. But I also have to say, I mean, I'm not a real techie person. I like more of the, philosophy and like I said, change makers, people who want to take action, people who aren't afraid to do the work, who are excited to get in there and just do it, even if they don't know what they're doing, but they're coachable. I mean, that's important, but yeah, I mean, when somebody asks me, why do what motivates me? And really, since I can remember being conscious, I was always interested in social justice. I was always interested in making the making the world a better place. That's always sort of been my thing. I mean, I've never not voted. I've never, I've always given to the causes I believe in. I mean, that's important to me. So I love working with people who, think like I do in that
Mm,
sense.
mm. So those are the people that who are open to making a change, to have a passion for something that they
Right,
believe in,
right.
something. So
Yeah.
when somebody does start working with you,
Mhm.
what's kind of like the 1, 2, 3 process? Like in the beginning, you talked a little bit about like, hey, let's find out why you want to do
Mhm.
it. What are you trying to accomplish? But then what are the couple of other steps that it takes? I mean, just in general.
Yeah, well, it's what I already said, which is, I mean, first of all, it's me understanding what their core message is, what their book needs to do to help them, get to the next level. We always talk about, and I'm amazed at how many people don't think about this either, is what's their call to action at the end of their book, starting with the end in mind. What do you want people to do, and working backwards, because you don't want to write a book and then you get to the end and go, oh, that's not where I wanted them to end up. So you've got to know what that is. And then, like I said, just setting up the foundation, figuring out all the keywords, the categories, the title, the subtitle, how to position the book, and then from there, coming up with the outline, and then writing the book. And there are different processes for writing the book depending on, when I work with people one-on-one, I mean, it really depends on, do they want to write it, or do they want to talk it? Do they want to transcribe it? Do they want us to do it for them? I mean, it just depends. There's different
Mhm.
ways to do it depending on what is going to work best for them. And then uh, finishing it. I mean, it's getting feedback, editing it, formatting it, publishing it, and then making it a bestseller. And then from there, doing a customized marketing plan depending on what they like to do. So, I mean, some people love to talk, some people want to write, some people, they just want to do different things. And sometimes it's something that I can continue to work with them on, and sometimes I'll refer them to somebody else. It just
Mhm.
depends on, what their passion is and what they want to accomplish. And I don't try to pretend that I'm the right person for everybody once they've written their book.
Sure. And what does it take for to be a bestseller? I mean, we see so many books, and all of them say, #1 bestseller. So what does that like really mean in your terms?
Well, first of all, that's true that we're in a bubble, and it looks like everybody's a number one bestseller. Guess what? Everybody out there is not a number one bestseller. Okay, that's first of all. Second of all, many years ago, I had a client come to me, and she was working with a VA company, and she went to them and said, I'm going to be a number one bestseller because I'm working with Ellen Violette and she's going to make me a number one bestseller. And they went, yeah, sure. Well, why were they skeptical? They were skeptical because they'd been trying to get people to number one and they weren't getting everybody to number one. And so we got her to number one, and we did it in one day. Now, there have been times I've done it in a couple hours, but you never know. And so the owner of the company came to me and said, how do you do that? How did you know that it would be a number one bestseller? And I told him, it's because I know how to set it up so that it's ready to be a number one bestseller. And it's partly, science. I mean, the data, I'm reading the data, and it's partly the art that I happen to be good at because I was in the music business for many years, and I started out as a lyricist. And when you write songs, what do? You write hooks. You hook people in with the emotion, and that's what I'm good at. And so he was like, "Wow, that's really great." And we ended up hooking up, and his company now does the back end of all my book launches, so I don't have to work so hard because I used to do it all myself.
Mhm.
So so that's, it's not everybody can do it. Some people can, some people do it the first time and other people don't. But there's more to it than that. I mean, first of all, you want to sell some books. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Secondly, we like to get it on the number one hot release list, which is really cool, because here's the thing about the number one hot release list. Like when you go and look at the top 10 books, they're listed and it'll say 1 through 10. But when you're on the hot new list, what happens is all of a sudden there'll be a break, like after 5, and it'll say hot new release. So your book is showing up there, and you could be there for up to 30 days, and that's getting you a lot more exposure.
Mhm.
So, that's a really cool thing as well. And then the other thing is, if you do it right, and I can't guarantee this will happen, but this has happened for some of my clients. I have one client who, after we set up his book and made it a #1 bestseller, he was actually on the bestseller list for 3 years. His book stayed there for 3 years, which is amazing. And on top of that, people get amazing opportunities from becoming a #1 best-selling author if they've written a good book. And part of what I do is make sure that the book, looks great, has a great title, is formatted nicely, looks professional. And also, I would never do a bestseller launch with a book that I didn't feel was ready. So, because a lot of times what people will do is and I find this there's more times that people actually are overachievers than underachievers who come to me. So they're afraid their book's not good enough when their book is way past good enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a woman come who was, she had an MBA and she didn't think she knew enough to write a book. I'm like, are you kidding? So, um, but you want the book to be good, but it's unfortunately true that a great title and a great cover sells with a good book sells better than the other way around. So you can write a great book, but if you got a lousy title, a lousy cover, you're not going to sell books.
Right. So it has to start.
It has to start there. And so, like this client that I was saying I was on for 3 years, he actually took his book to a live conference where Kevin Harrington was speaking, and he was carrying it under his arm because his intention was he wanted Kevin to see it. Kevin saw it, loved the cover, asked him to come up on stage, and they spent 45 minutes talking about his book.
Mhm.
And my client said he took all the air out of the room, And then from there, he ended up getting Kevin as a mentor of his, who has worked with him since then. And he ended up getting the opportunity to speak at a live event in Singapore, which was a dream of his. And he told me that he's now able to charge more money for his books and his not his books, his consulting. And he was already doing high-end consulting. So, I mean, and that's just one story. I mean, I have tons of stories. I have another client who sold 4,000 books her first weekend. I mean, that's unheard of. And, if that was $10 a book, I mean, that's like 40 grand. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing. But she also was already a marketer. It was like she did things that were in alignment with what we were doing. So it wasn't like what we were doing was the only thing. So how much value my clients get out of it beyond the bestseller depends on what else they're willing to do. I mean, there are a lot of things that we can help them with, but it's ultimately how deep do they want to go,
Right.
and what are the results they want to get.
Yeah.
But she said that she literally had people say to her they bought the book because they loved the title, and I wrote the title. It's called Friend Power.
Great. I believe that, if you can't get people through the door, they don't know what you're selling inside. And again,
Right.
it doesn't matter. If you don't have a good billboard, then how are people going to go in and buy stuff? So you got to have a gateway. And if it's a good gateway, then people will choose your gateway over other people's gateways. So I think it's very, very true. So I'm glad that you're able to share that in real life experiences. This is how things work. You can't just expect like, hey, I'm so good at what I do, but if you're so good at what you do, but people aren't interested,
it means you're not connecting. It means you're not saying it right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I love that. I have to do marketing for my business as well. In real estate, we always have to, sell the house. We have to, sell the marketing. We have to sell the picture to get them through the door.
Yeah, I've worked with realtors. I've helped realtors write books.
So maybe there's a book in me.
I'm sure there is.
Well, Ellen, you've been super great. I love all the knowledge and experience you brought here, and I hope everybody can get a lot out of it. This is obviously recorded, and it'll be pushed to YouTube as well. So be easy to share. And if you want to share with some of your audience, I know
I'm happy to share. Yeah.
you got a big audience in Twitter and other social media stuff, so that's
As a
great.
matter of fact, if you give me a download, I can put it on YouTube too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is the type of thing that I do to just share to as many people as possible and see they can get as much as they can out of it. And so I'm so happy to do that and collaborate with you and get more people looked at. We're gonna have to like maybe come up with a tagline.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with people in so many different areas. Like I said, I mean, I love working with people who have a great message and want to make the world a better place. But yeah, I mean, I haven't come across a niche yet where a book didn't help somebody
Yeah,
in their
no, I think
business.
it's still very, very valuable.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost the other way around. Like if you haven't written a book and you know, are pretty successful there, then there's something wrong, you know, kind of nowadays, you know, because we don't have those barriers like we used to with the publishers, like you
Right.
said, reject, 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 you know. And so now, you know, it's more wide open, which is much better for everybody, you know, because now we can have people of all different kinds be able to raise bring their voice and bring their experience out to people without being rejected right off the bat.
Right.
All these
Right.
publishers are just, you know, locking things down. Same thing with if you weren't on TV somehow, right? Nobody knew you, and now you could be on YouTube, you could be on all these platforms. If you're a musician and you didn't get on, I don't know, Solid Gold or something like that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there are a lot of people who have launched their careers from YouTube in the
Yeah,
music business.
yeah. So
Justin
I
Bieber comes
yeah,
to
for
mind.
sure. So I think that's great. I think the more that we can get out there, everybody can have a voice, and then you know, that way we can all share, you know, the collective knowledge. So, okay, well, I appreciate it. I would love to have you come back sometime. There's so much here that I would love to talk a little bit more about. We've already gone over time, of course, but per tradition, we always ask our guests what they love about where they live. So tell us.
I love that it's less crowded than LA. And I love the weather, and it's beautiful, and the beaches are awesome, and it's a great place to live.
Great. And so also per tradition, we always have a quote that the guest would like to share. So tell us yours.
Well, mine is actually my website URL, which is Books Open Doors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, books open doors and to more opportunities and bigger opportunities.
I see it also as a growth, a personal growth process too. So you get to grow, and then, you know, like you said, it opens more doors. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your time and all your knowledge that you
Well,
bring.
thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I hope that we have more people out there who can give a second thought about, hey, maybe about writing a book and maybe contacting you and asking questions and things
Oh,
like
can I just tell them though where they can go and listen to the podcast?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Please do.
Well, the podcast is booksbusinessabundance.com/podcast. And there's just some awesome interviews. There are so many wonderful people giving amazing advice, and it's all free. So if you're interested, I would highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah, when we're done here, I'll also put that link, you know, up for people to look up as well. So so great. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for watching. If you're watching this on a replay, feel free to comment, ask any questions. Both of us are tagged here on this post, and so you can always circle back and see what questions you have. Have a great night, and I will see you all tomorrow. Good night.
Bye.